Hey Brandon, this is Ed, otherwise known as the Roaming Gamer. I just wanted to say thanks for answering my question about where you're at as far as what computer or operating system you're using, etc. And I wanted to do a quick video for you on how to make your first sprite. Now, having said that, I'm going to say that you really should use tools. You said in your post that you don't use art tools, and I would suggest that you get some. Now, you can get paid tools and you can get free tools. And I'm going to talk about using free tools today. Um, but really, there's a reason why folks like myself use paid tools is because they're superior. They do a lot of the extra grunt work for you. That said, let me just give you some suggestions and then we'll go right into the example. Now, when I say art tools, usually what folks take away from that is like for drawing and whatnot. And I do mean that. Now, I would suggest if you can afford it that you get Photoshop because Photoshop that's the be all end all. I think most people will agree for basic 2D and 3D work, for basically creating textures, etc. However, if you can't afford that, or if you're like me and you don't like the idea of paying for a license, you can get PaintShop. So I use PaintShop Pro. It costs like, I don't know, 70 bucks, and it's a forever license, so you never have to pay a dime later on. Oh yeah, so this one's 64 bucks. So if that's not affordable still, you've got no budget whatsoever, your next option, your next really good option is GIMP. Now GIMP, I think it gets a bad rap because it's kind of a little bit hard to understand how to use it first. But once you get the hang of using GIMP, you're going to find yourself really moving along and solving problems quickly. It's a great program. I use it in addition to PaintShop Pro for those cases where PaintShop Pro doesn't do one of the things I need or it doesn't have a filter I need. GIMP's really great because it's got a user community behind it that produces all kinds of plugins and whatnot and solves problems. So this is what I would suggest for you if you are really like just a beginner and you've got no money. That's fine. So what else do I mean when I say art tools? Another set of art tools that is very specific to the problem that you're having today is you need to have some texture packing tools. And it's unfortunate, I don't know, I guess the guys who made Texture Packer were smart in that they named their tool Texture Packer. But texture packing in general is, or creating texture atlases is, it's a known term. So anyways, to avoid confusion, if you go to the marketplace, you can find my texture packer helpers. And I'm not saying you need to buy this, okay? If you buy it, great. It will help you out. It'll save you some extra work. But you can get by with rudimentary texture packing work and sprite work on your own. It's a lot harder. So, but what I wanted to point you at here is that if you go to the marketplace, and then you go and you look for texture packer helpers, you will find in my description a list with some links to 4 different tools. Now, texture packer, that tool is the one that I use on a day-to-day basis. It's the go-to tool. I would strongly suggest you buy it if you can afford it. It solves 99% of the problems you're going to face making sprites and making texture sheets, etc., atlases. But, you know, hey, maybe you can't afford it. So there's 3 other solutions which are all free. They just require a little bit more effort. Shoebox. Shoebox is another great solution. It's a little bit technical to start with. I mean, it's really not that bad, but folks it's got an interesting interface, so it's a little bit hard to understand how to use it first. So I'm going to skip over that one. Then there's Free Texture Packer 0.24, which is kind of a funny name. And then Leshy, which is the one we're going to use today. So let's go ahead and let me reload Leshy. Okay, so Leshy, if you go to the link, it's going to look like this. It's a very basic online tool that you can use to package textures together in what's called an atlas or a sprite sheet. So we're going to go ahead and do that today. So finally, let's see, we're at minute 450. And we are going to get into the demo. So I saw that you were using Kenny's Art Pack let's see, it was the platformer characters zombie poses, and you had showed us one of the zombie poses. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take zombie walk 1 and 2, and I'm going to use the Leshy tool and some examples from the forums, or not the forums, from the documentation. I'm just going to show you how this works. When you see this video, there'll be a link, and the link will be to a file called brandonsprites.zip. And in that zip file, it's going to be the completed example of what I'm showing you now, and then a starter so that you can follow along and watch this video, pause it if you need to, and do what I'm doing so you can see what's going on here. So let me go ahead and just walk you through it, okay? So the starter is going to come with Zombie Walk 1 and 2 in it, but normally what you would do is you'd go to your asset pack and you'd go ahead and grab the assets you need, copy them, and then paste them in here. Now obviously I've already done that, so we'll skip it. So we're starting off, we've got 2 discrete images. Now if we hover our cursor over this and let it, hopefully it works for me. Yeah. So both of these images are 80 by 110, which is an important number, or are important numbers to keep in mind. So they're 80 pixels wide and 110 pixels tall. So just remember that. Now go ahead and grab them and open up the Leshy page and just drag and drop these babies on here. And you should see something like this, basically. And there's not a lot to do here. So what I want you to do now is go ahead and rename it. It comes up called Sprite Sheet. You can leave it that if you want, but I'm going to call mine Leshy. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Save. That's going to download, and then I'm going to go to the folder where I downloaded it, which is my Downloads folder, and then I'm going to move that over into the Images folder. Okay, so now I've got the 2 discrete images, which I started from, and I've got one sheet called leshy.png, which has got both of them in it. So let's hover our cursor over this and see what we see. Okay, so this thing says that it's 161 pixels by 110 pixels. So that basically means that it took 280 by 110s and put them together. And you need to understand this. What it's done is it's put a line of a blank pixel, one pixel wide vertically between these. So 80, 1 pixel, and then 80. So we get 161 pixels. And the reason this is important is you're going to need this information or this understanding to appropriately create your image sheet. So let's go ahead and do that. But before we do, let me bring up my editor, and let's go ahead and drag the main.lua file on there. So when you do this, your main Lua file basically is just going to have this in it, nothing. So all this does is says hide the status bar and do some buffering so that the output goes to the console right away. So let's go ahead and go to the documentation for new image sheets. And let's scroll down a little bit. Now you're going to see this one first. This is not the one we want. And the reason is because this doesn't include any of the settings that we need to adjust for that 1 extra pixel that got put in our texture. Now if this texture had been 160, that would mean that these 2 got put together with no buffer. There was no extra vertical spacing in there, and they were just adjacent. And then we could use this one. Basically what we would do is we would say the width is 80, the height is 110, there are 2 frames, and then the sheet content is 160 by 110. But because of the way Leshy works, it has inserted that extra vertical line of blank space, and it did that for technical reasons so that you don't get I'll just leave it alone. So let's just move on. So scrolling down, go ahead and look for the complex one. This is the one we want, and let's just go ahead and grab the whole thing, copy that, and paste it, and then I'll show you what you got to do. All right, so this is 2 frames. Perfect. Our example has 2 frames. Now, Zombie Walk 1 is going to be the one on, unfortunately, it's the one on the right. So if you look at that image there, you can see that it's this one. So if we think about it, what does that mean? That means that it starts at pixel x81 and it starts at pixel y1. So you move from left to right starting at pixel 1, 80 pixels, 81, 82. No, actually, it's at 82. So it starts at pixel 82 and y pixel 1. The source, the image height itself, is 80 by 110, so that's easy. And frame 2, which is Zombie Walk 2, is unfortunately Leshy has put that on the left side. That's fine, we'll deal with it. So that starts at pixel 1 and y pixel 1. Again, it's right at the top. And this is the same, it's 80 by 110. And then this part's optional, but it's good to fill it in. And basically what this is the size of your whole sheet. So our whole sheet is 161 by 110. And let's go ahead and save that. All right, so let's go back to the documentation. So let's keep scrolling down here. Okay, that's the simple, that's the complex. Let's just go ahead and grab this. Now we're going to make an image sheet with that. So image sheet, and let's see, where's the PNG? Our PNG is in the folder called images, and it's called Leshy. So we're going to put this as images, Leshy, and save it. Now let's go ahead and bring up, let's bring up Corona, and then drag and drop main.lua onto it. Okay, so that ran. There were no problems, no errors. Super, we're doing great. Let's go back to the documentation. Now let's turn that into a sprite. So start at the top, basic signature for the function, easy peasy. Okay, so we've got this basic single sequence is what we're doing, a one walking sequence. So let's go ahead and just grab all this code here. Let's paste that in there. Okay, we'll just leave most of this stuff the same. It's going to start on, you know what, just for simplicity, because it's going to loop, I'm going to go ahead and start on frame 1. And there are 2. And then I'm going to say, let's say that the total running time for this animation is like, I don't know, 750 milliseconds. And it loops forever. And I don't want it to bounce, I want it to go forward, so forward. All right, character, display new image, image sheet, we got that, sequence data, and let's just do one more thing. Let's go ahead and put this in the center of the screen. So x equals display dot content center x, copy that, paste it, y, and y, and hopefully I didn't make any typos. Let's bring up, okay. Oh, you'll notice that I've got mine reloading as soon as I make code changes. So, so if I move that over, it would reload automatically. You might need to relaunch yours depending on what your settings are for the simulator. So let's go ahead and save that one more time. Okay, so good. That's our dude. He looks good. He's ready to start walking, but he is not yet walking. He's in the center of the screen. Let's go ahead and let me put that over there. Let's go ahead and make him walk. Or let's make him play the animation. I can't type to save my life, so I'll cut, copy, paste. And what is it? It's play. We do that. Should start walking. And let's go ahead and let's move them over to the left just for fun. This part won't be in the final version. You know, actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it in there, so all of this will be in the final version. Let's put him off to the left side, so it's like minus 200. Is that going to be enough? Good enough. And let's do a transition to, and let's do character x equals Let's go ahead and do the current position plus 400. See what that does. Oh, that's way too fast. So let's say time equals 4,000. That's still too fast. Let's say 8,000. That's closer. It's not exactly good, but you know what? We can leave that for now. And let's go ahead and make him stop walking when he gets to the end. So let's put on complete equals, and we'll just we'll use a closure to do this. So let me just wrap this around so you can see it a little better. Function, make it type, self stop. So self is going to be the character, end, and let's try that. Of course, now we got to wait 8 seconds. Hopefully I didn't typo something. Oh, of course. Can't remember anything. This is why I have the documentation. So let's go ahead and go and Sprite. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, I should have searched for new Sprite. Let's go to new Sprite. That's going to create a Sprite object. Let's click on that. And pause. Okay, sorry. All right, let's try pausing. Let's reload that. Hey, I make mistakes too. Anyways, the point is that we got the documentation, easy to look up. Bada bing, done. All right, super. So I think you pretty much got everything you need here to put together a sprite sheet or an atlas, depending on how you want to call that. Go ahead and actually create an image sheet from that, create a sequence, create a sprite, place it, play it, even do a transition, and tweak it a bit. Oh, one more thing. Yeah, let me show you this too. So I'm going to keep this. I'll put all this in the completed one for you, okay? Let's go ahead and let's make him walk from the right side of the screen to the left side. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so you'd asked about this, or somebody had mentioned it. What if we want him to face to the left? Well, all you got to do is x scale equals -1. And let's go ahead and put him on the right side of the screen. Let's make him walk from right to left. So again, from where he's currently at this point when the code is executed, to -400. Now if we play that, he will walk from the right side of the screen to the left and stop over an 8-second period. Okay? All right, I think this is going to get you rolling. And, you know, if you have any more questions, go ahead and ask them in the forums. But hopefully you start moving along. All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.